Hi, what is up? This is Pancake Marathon. My goodness. Where essentially I always, I don't know, how do I say this? Let's go ahead and leave it better than we found it, essentially, right? Because, you know, why did I develop this concept today? Essentially, is to simply say we get to do a 180 and then we do a 360, you know, because it's always about, you know, my experience of what I can give, because that's what I have to give, simply to say, right? And so, a spiritual awakening I had today of just putting the work in, simply to say, of tradition 7, we can simply say, being able to change in the sense of really highlighting that of giving a peace of mind, right? And so as me putting the work in, right, to manifest the life that I want by focusing, right, isn't that just the same difference? It really is. Truly, it absolutely, really, really is. To say simply, it's to put the work in is life. As I look over this, and the reason why I say the manifest life and the work I'm putting into this is the nature of a peace of mind nurtured by my life, right? What is, essentially the slogan of work, 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 and then the slogan of think, think, think. It. I'm attempting to find words to convey just the life that I have, you know, and the life that I'm willing to participate in. You know, it's I don't know, the slogan in my head that pops up is, leave it better than you found it, is just to continue that thought of words in the sense of, you know, because there's that balance. There's this thing. It's I'm tempting to um, find the balance in this intuition thing, right? The internal, the nature, the instinct, the listening to my, God of my understanding, these thoughts that are in my head of just the conception of what I can comprehend as serenity, to know peace. And as I do, as such, it's about somehow giving a peace of mind. Is that not how I can interpret, practice the principles in all my affairs? Because if I'm not supposed to be the face of any recovery program and, essentially upholding tradition 6, but finding a way of tradition 4 by ways of tradition 5, you know, a group to carry a message. And that's the primary purpose. And tradition 4, let it happen, unless it's, taking away some value, right? Adding hurt and pain. And so, me being the face of my recovery, being a leader, and just a servant of this message, oh, my goodness, of going off of all the moments that I stole, took, kept a peace of mind, right? It's not mine. If it was mine, it will come back. And so I must lose myself. I must give it away. And if it comes back to me, I get to keep it. Absolute. You know, of all this scholarly research I've done and all the organizations that I do, of like organizing, right? It almost simply comes down to the fact of, how do I show up in my life? How do I keep finding a way just to stay in the now moment? The strength that will ultimately lead me, because I keep showing up for that miracle in my life of just knowing with this sense of purpose that I have, because I'm a miracle, and so is everyone else. Everyone else is a miracle. I ultimately see not of when I am blind, my stinking thinking, this ultimate deception, maybe, in a sense of saying, of what is life and how do I just keep on living. It really truly is that. Ultimately, it's what I want. Never anything else and nothing more. I just want to live. I want to be free. Yet, maybe this is so from the ego standpoint. Maybe I need to get more of a basis of my absolutes, right? And I say that because that's what I feel in a sense of how I was addressing it. Of when I say I want to live, I want to be free, you know? And maybe per se I'm trying to make up for lost time in a sense of saying, because I got up a little later per se to simply say of when I would originally get up. Man, yeah, there's a point where I got a late start, we can simply say, on the fact of my day to that of my night or whatever it may be. I'm just, not having enough time as it may seem, in a sense of saying, even though I make that time, I can make it miserable. I can make it great. It's going to be a great day unless I have other plans. And it's like I attempt to find that peace. But don't we all? We all attempt to find this peace. We all attempt to find a way to just have some joy. Simple joy. Is that not peace? Is that not serenity? Is that not a way of just showing up in your life? It can be. I mean, to me, that's how I see it. Yet, that's what I have to give. I don't have more than that. How can I give something if I don't have it? I find it so fascinating when it's like attempting to stay on topic because I could have gone into some other ways and yet I stayed within just the simplicity of what is this message within recovery aspects in life. There's so absolutes in everything. And yet, what way do I breathe? Do I just let the cards lie and show up and then finish? Because it's not how you started. It's not about focusing on the end. It's about focusing on the beginning, finishing what I started, seeing it through in a way of just, it's living life on life's terms. I have an ability to do that. I mean, I can make it unmiserable, right? I mean, if I made it miserable, then I can make it unmiserable. I think, and so I am. And so I shall work smarter, not harder. And yet that doesn't even make sense. At this point, I'm just communicating. I'm just living life right at this moment. Attempting to give a peace of mind. Leave it better than I found it. Playing with this concept of giving a peace of mind, which is somehow giving it the ability for myself, making the room, focusing on leaving it better than I found it, is how I interpret tradition 7. Maybe in that sense, it's because I find that I am able to just show up. Is that not peace? Is that not serenity? Is that not a non-judgmental state of emotions? I can see all of this, but then I see nothing. If I can see it all, then don't I see nothing? If I see nothing, then don't I see it all? It's like I ask myself this question, or I ask others as well, that it comes down to, would you rather be the beautiful thing looking at something ugly, or would you rather be the ugly thing looking at something beautiful? It's all the same. It's a paradox. What is it? A self-reflection? Is that not a paradox? Reflections are paradoxes. You didn't learn it per se at that time. And that's okay. It's not that it's wrong, and it's not that it's not meant to be that way. I mean, I can make it so miserable, or I can make it mean something. From the simple fact of life, of just maybe that's the way it's supposed to be, and it is it not? I mean, there's so many points where it's like why is life happening this way? Why is my life this way? Well, as I see it, as I've been gifted because someone gave it, right? And so because I give it, because I received it, because I was open to it, and I was able to just have this breath of just seeing that life is the way that it is, because I am life. I am ultimately this thing that is living. It doesn't break down or hold up to something where I had this unrealistic expectation to where everyone else is going to get it. And it's not that they don't, it's that if I don't show up, then how are they supposed to get it? How am I supposed to show that I am a teacher, because I am ultimately a student, right? A servant, as that is then how I can be a leader, because I am willing to stay teachable. I am willing to stay within the herd. I'm willing to keep showing up. I'm not absolutely unwilling, in a sense of saying, to put myself on a pedestal, but because of humility, I know that I am not alone, and there's so many seats upon this pedestal. We can only call it a plane, like in geological terms, right? Where a plane is just like a cut-off mountain. You know, it's almost insane to think about it that way when word plays comes in to the fact of what it is, to the simplicity of a plane sounds like a plan, and yet, I'm just saying, of just all these other concepts of my life, of how some can condemn life when it doesn't fit into their box. And in that sense, it's like, what's going on? Why? Why do I have life where it doesn't fit into a box? Where I have life where I'm... Can you hear me? Okay, that's weird. And, you know, there's so many points of just, oh, I don't know where I was going to say with all that. That was so brilliantly put in my head. But see, that's the thing. It's has nothing and never will be other than how I want to make my mark on the world. How I want to go ahead and show up. How I don't care to care sometimes. I mean, isn't that everybody? It is. And it can always be if we want it to be, you know? Finding solace when I can, and finding a peace of mind, which is all the same thing, right? And it's almost in that same sense of really being understood as gratitude. Gratitude can be everything and mean nothing all at the same time if we choose to have other plans. It's going to be a great day unless we have other plans. And then if we have other plans, we are only as sick as our secrets. And then it's like, what is going on? I'm in a paralysis because I'm analysis. Analysis is paralysis. And then somehow I'm attempting to fake it till I make it. But then it's not even faking it until I make it. And in that same sense, it's like, isn't that just another way of saying an AA zealot, or a zealot upon itself, where I'm attempting to rest on my laurels, and then I'm attempting to one-up myself in the future from the past, and then somehow I'm shutting the door on the past, which then creates no future at all, because I'm going ahead and making it to where my future is nothing because I want it to be my past, and then somehow the past is then the future, and then somehow the future is in the past. And I'm looking at it from the rearview mirror, and then I start going that way because I turned around, because I did a 360 after I did the 180. Then I turned back around and I did a 180 again, to now I'm facing where I'm going ahead and burning down my life again. That would be my rock bottom, would not? Would that not be then a spiritual awakening that I get to go ahead and I can make it meaningless, or I can make it matter? What would then be the same thing? Right? It like goes back on what I was saying earlier on how I did not get it the first time. And we can say, go ahead and say the 99th monkey effect, to where it's karma. And the only way we can learn something is to change. It might take us forever to change. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. If I don't reach out and I keep isolating and I don't have a peace of mind because I look good, right? I have the level of respect for myself because I put the work in, right? I have a clear mind, but then I'm overcomplicating it. And now that's my new addiction, simply and to say. And that's what is amazing about this evolution of recovery, we can simply say, of not shutting the door in the past nor regretting to, because if we shut the door in the past, we don't learn anything. And history repeats itself. You know, like, ooh. And so, simply to say, I was talking to somebody, and in my thoughts, as I experience things, you know, I love recovery in such a way, and I see the development and the evolution upon itself to where somehow we attempt to stay so pure in the sense of the message so it doesn't get telephoned, right? And in that sense, sometimes we don't find ourselves because we're still losing ourselves. We're at a sense of itself where it's as simple as you don't go to the barbershop or you're going to get a haircut. And it's like, okay, well, if I'm in my active participant in my recovery and I have a great foundation, I'm in the opposite of alcoholism, which is, alcoholism, the hopeless state of body and mind, to where I have joy. And I guess the opposite of alcoholism would be serenity, peace, a new freedom, because this phase of my development, I'm amazed when it's halfway there. Somehow we're always in the middle, right? Somehow we're always in the now. And to further explain how we're always in the middle, don't we, if we're in the now, is there not the possibility of the probability of somehow being in the future and the past all at the same time? Would that not then be the now? Would that not be the God moment, the moment of serenity, the moment of clarity and a spiritual awakening, all of itself? Is that not just another way of saying the now? In recovery jargon, the strength, which is really just a moment of clarity, a peace upon itself, which is described as a spiritual awakening, which is in and of itself, in the sense of a past explanation, the knowledge we get to keep now, right? Because we put the work in to manifest this life. And so it's so easy to block the door because we don't open it. We block ourselves from just not being blinded anymore by our own self-evidence of the ego. Maybe. And it's not even the ego's fault. It's our fault for condemning these things. That's really what it comes to in all points of itself, where I'm just showing up. I'm not looking at the time, or there's points where I got food and I want to eat, but then there's points to where I'm trying to make up for what is life, to where I feel, in a sense, or the ego feels, that I have not put enough time, or I don't have enough time, even though I'm life, right? And I can make it miserable, and then I can have company. Because it's not that misery loves company. I mean, that is such a a proverb, which in a sense of itself, a proverb is just a cheesy statement, which in of itself, that was a past quote proverb that's been illustrated as in some kind of unreachable pedestal of, idolized falsities, right? Because doesn't the Bible say don't have any false idols other than me, right? And then yet, if you don't expand upon that, you take the science, the cut, right? In etymology, science is a cut, and engineering is a science, and engineering in of itself simply means to hack. And then so we get the fact that we understand things, but then we forget the fact of that we forgot how to learn something because we learned it. And then somehow we're playing the telephone game with history upon itself, and then we forget that being a good student is to be a teacher, but being an amazing teacher is to always remain a student. And then, unless we all develop, right, in the sense of evolutionized aspects of the body, where we all develop the senses of information of what is to go ahead and just have a textile aspect of, oh, I know that whole book because I touched it, right? But then is that not taking away or refocusing on the aspect of just a human experience upon itself? Right, it maybe not, I don't know. This is so profound. I feel so enlightened and so amazing that I'm just wanting to keep on going. But in the same sense, I get that this human experience is not about staying in one moment. For life is a fractal, and there's only the now moment. There's just many experiences that are now moments. Simply to say, we can go ahead and say in the archetype of time traveling, in how I used to quote it, it was like the oh, I can't say it. Oh my goodness. Fine. Okay, fine. There's points to simply saying that life by itself is what it is, and we can make it whatever we want it to be, purely understood as free will, purely experienced in legalities of freedom, in the sense of what it is of life. Of how do you want to have life? How do you want to be? What's your why? And yet, maybe it really comes down to keeping it simple, which is a peace of mind. Peace. Because we all have something to offer. And we're always losing ourselves in a sense of we have these defenses that we're trying to not lose ourselves so much to where somehow we don't relate to life anymore. In that sense, life is, wow, miserable. Would it then not be? As it is and as it can be, what shall it be today? And yet, simply to say, whoo, hey. As it simply comes to this point, to where I showed up in my life today, and somehow I feel at peace. I feel at peace. I guess that could be called nirvana, in the same sense of a spiritual awakening would maybe be a simplest way of calling nirvana. Anywho's, I see life in its beauty, and I can go ahead and make it as miserable or as seemingly perfect. Because it's only that of my perfection. This soul, the God of my understanding, can be serene and bring me at peace. Because I admitted that somehow this anger, resentment, led into an obsession to worry. And then I find ignorance to be blissful. Because, there's points to where ignorance, by simple expanding on the evolution of etymology, is to ignore. And it's not that I'm ignoring anything, it's that somehow I'm giving time. And in that sense, I'm able to just breathe, letting go and letting God. And God to me is, what is not God? God's everything. And then God is nothing at the same time. Would it not be? If unstoppable is just another way of saying stoppable, it would be. And it's not like it's a paradox as to what is the simplicities of just finishing the thought to knowing peace because I let go and let God. I gave time. I worked. Duh. To think. To see a phase of my development. And to know a new freedom. Because I lost interest in selfish things to gain interest in my fellows. To love thy neighbor as thyself. Leaving it better than I found it. Because that is peace, would it not be? To being the best teacher, because I am just a humble student. A servant that does not govern, but leads. As it comes to this point, though, that I see life just as beautiful as I am, because I am life, and I am at peace at this moment, serene upon itself. And so, keep showing up to your life, because sometimes we make permanent decisions off of temporary moments, and that temporary moment can become a regret. And that regret is resentment. Maybe. And that regret is a lapse. And yet, because we keep qualifying ourselves by showing up in our life, all we can do is try. And trying is just as simple as being able to keep going, making progress along spiritual lines. Because isn't that all we have out of our maladies? The stinking thinking that led us to this moment where we can't comprehend it. It's incomprehensible. And yet, simply to say, to know peace, you must give peace. And sometimes the things that we hold, we just simply need to put them down and give them back. Because they were never ours. They were always that thing, whatever it may be, simply to say, because all things are amazing. And maybe that amazement is why we picked it up. And then simply to say, we lost our way. Anywho, thank you, God of my understanding, for being in my life. And thank you for being part of my recovery. Because, oh my goodness, I don't think I would have it any other way. And simply to say, you always deserve to take up space. Your shoes do fit just right. Maybe it's time to walk out that echo chamber. Don't shut the door on the past, though. And stop digging, because it's just what it can be. And yet, simply to say, have an amazing one. This has been another episode of Pancake Marathon. I love you. And you are worth it. If you work it. And even if you don't, and you're doing more Step Zero research, hey, that's okay. Just stop digging, and all will be okay. Put down that rock, because we float. We do. And we're supposed to mentally smile, because it takes less energy to smile, even though a frown's an upside down smile. But work smarter, not harder. I love you.